Well, it is Thursday evening, the 27th day of October 2011, and we're not going to cover real-life vampires here tonight because the globalist holiday of Halloween is coming up that we all celebrate and have no idea what it really means. No, we just happen to be covering this because it's in the news and it ties into the World Depopulation Program. You see, the global elite, the most powerful families ruling our world, dine on human flesh, have attendants that wipe their butts, bathe in blood, and are setting up a global parasitic economy and forced abortions and absolute evil. So you might as well call them vampires. But it turns out they themselves believe they're vampires, but not the legendary vampire that shapeshifts and flies around as a bat or turns into a werewolf. No, people who are psychic vampires. And there's a report on this today out of the Daily Mail and a bunch of other newspapers. Blue Bloods, Prince Charles joins campaign to save Transylvania forest because of his family connections to Count Dracula. Now, in my deep study of the British royalty, that's really German royalty, that's really Transylvanian and Hungarian royalty, I've done the research. You can do it yourself. And he was only one of the most well-known 500 years ago of his line. Many of his other progeny later as the heads of Hungary and other areas, Hungary, engaged in bathing in blood, eating body parts, torturing people to death. And this became the main line of royalty that ended up taking over Germania, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and England today. And there's another article. British royalty dined on human flesh, but don't worry, it was 300 years ago. And they claim that they don't have groom of the stool anymore that wipes their butt, but it turns out that's currently going on. And now President George W. Bush had a groom of the stool. That was actually in the news, that he had his own little toilet that traveled with him and his own private royal butt wiper. So you can't make this up, what goes on with these people. But there it is. Look, he looks kind of like Vlad the Impaler. Right over there, that little pervert. And then you got this little sicko right here. And again, it's only because good people are blind to these folks that we're unable to deal with it. Prince Charles has come out publicly and said he's very upset that ancestral castles are being torn down for housing developments, that the Carpathian mountain forest where he enjoys frolicking himself. This is a true psychic vampire. Prince Charles is campaigning to save forest of Transylvania, inspired by his ancestral links to Vlad the Impaler, the 15th century nobleman better known as Dracula. And it just goes on to talk about that, oh, he really is of the line of the dragon, or Dracul. And again, I don't talk about sins of the fathers, but these are eugenicists that openly call for a 90% world population reduction, as his father and others do, Prince Philip, of the Dracul line. And these are people who reportedly are still drinking baby's blood and things like that. That's what witnesses say. But again, their ancestors were, as they report, a few hundred years ago, but I'm sure they've stopped. Oh, but Jack the Ripper didn't stop. He was one of their people. Now, just so you know, they're sucking us dry. They're psychic vampires. This is real. That's what the New World Order is. It's run by these folks. Wake up to it, realize it, understand it, face it. Because when you're blind to these people, they continue to win. Now, I want to be clear before the New York Times or Washington Post says, I believe in physical vampires. This is psychological, spiritual. The facts are the facts. We just presented it to you. This is going on. Now, let's shift gears to the fact that the eugenicists set up by British, German, Transylvanian, is what they really are. Got to go through several layers of the onion to find the truth. And the word is the Transylvanians then trace back to even before that in antiquity in the Middle East. The issue here is the British royalty, which are Transylvanian royalty, the House of the Dragon, Dracul. The House of Dracul went to scientists 140 years ago, 150 years ago or so, Galton and others, and said, what do? We like what Galton's talking about. We like what Darwin's talking about. We really like what happened 100 years before. with Malthus, Sir Malthus, who said, release biological weapons, release smallpox on the poor, wipe them out. We believe there's too many people. When there was 500 million people in the world, they thought there were too many people. Because they don't like you running around and getting in their way. They want just enough people to be their slaves and feed off of, but not too many, because if you get too numerous, you might actually deal with the parasites, which is a mosquito, a blood drinker, a tapeworm that gets in your stomach and sucks your sustenance, vampires, parasites, control freaks, enemies now being identified. Info warriors, you are the 21st century Van Helsings. So we're going to deal with these people. We're going to expose them. We're going to deal with them. Oh, I see you. I see you, and you're scared, and you should be. Because you know those of us that are red-blooded are more powerful than those of you that are blue-blooded. By the way, you look at this little headline. Everything in the world is stated for those that see it, all in gang sign. Give me a document cam shot on this. Blue Bloods. Prince Charles joins campaign to save Transylvanian forests because of his family connections to Count Dracula. You know, I was like 10 years old. My dad's a voracious reader and reads history books. And he had mainline university history books on the history of vampirism and how it started in Transylvania and Hungary and other areas, and how it was rampant, and how they were then German royalty, British royalty. Now the British continued it. So it was already news I knew about the British, you know, eating human body parts just a few hundred years ago that we just showed you. But notice right here, blue bloods, blue bloods. You want to see blue blood? Can you see the blue? See that blue right there? You know why you see blue right there? That's a vein. You see, a vein has used unoxygenated blood or dead blood. Why did the ancients, this goes back thousands of years, call elites blue bloods? It was their way of saying they're blooded and red. They're blooded and full of oxygen and alive. These are blue bloods. What does all this mean? The sooner you get to the meaning, the sooner you know that you're dreaming. But the most important thing is we see you blue bloods and we got red blood, and you don't like us because you know we're stronger than you. You try to teach us we're weak, but we're going to defeat you. And humanity's going to the stars, and you psychic vampires are going straight to hell. You will be defeated. And that's why when I later tonight show you the footage of a little child's jaw blown off and the horror of it, you should look at it and watch it and know that that's a feast of these psychic vampires, and that's who we're fighting. And as men, we shouldn't worry about any form of torture or pain or death in the mission to defeat these scumbags. We're reclaiming our humanity. We're reclaiming our humanity and our manhood today. We do not fear you. We're going to rout you out. Because we're not afraid of the high noon sun. It's what makes us strong. We're red-blooded. You who hide in darkness will fail and will fall. And the beginning of your end has already begun. And you know it. You know it. And again, I'm on this whole vampire jab because I've always known it's parasitic. But when I was in Las Vegas for 3 days at outside government installations covering news that's going to come out on Jesse Ventura's show, I really realized this is a death cult, psychic vampire system we're facing, who claims to their acolytes in the lower level they're building up humanity. But when you truly study at the higher levels of eugenics, it's to destroy humanity. This is the fundamental enemy of progress, the fundamental enemy of survival, the fundamental enemy of plenty. I am here for wealth and strength and honor and beauty and everything good. And these people are ugliness. So they tell you they're guardians of beauty when they actually wage war against what you see on that screen right there. They are anathema. They do not like that because it threatens them while they're hiding out. Now, speaking of this trash, the Royal Commission on Population, 1949, came out and said, we're not going to let the third world develop. We're going to deindustrialize the Western world. We're going to create a neo-feudalistic state. And now the UN's saying from 7 billion to 500 million people, the sick population control agenda. This is all over the news. AP, BBC, they're promoting There's too many people. Reduce it to 500 million. We got a report on the Georgia Guidestones coming up. And what are Guidestones? It's a symbol of this is generational. We're going to continue this work as long as the hills are there, as old as the hills. And we're going to get to the Guidestone report in a moment. So let's kill that for a moment. No, it's great. The guys have overdone it. They've got so many damn graphics and clips. I don't know what I'm doing here. It looks like you guys have seen the enemy and you want to crush them. Welcome to the club. Wild horses couldn't drag you away from this. Look at this report right here. This is what got me on this jag this morning when I read this.